everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today we're going to be talking about how to let go of control. This is follow-up to the control issues in men, one, but also the CEO and resentful employee dynamic that I wrote about. And, of course, everything about maternal gatekeeping, which means when men think that women are doing so much and around the house and telling them that they're doing it wrong, that the woman ends up doing everything, but then the man was trying and she was actually saying, no, you're doing it wrong till he stops trying. So those are various types of control. We'll get into others, but first do subscribe. The most recent one that I had was about when men are doing stuff around the house, like fixing stuff, but their wives don't really care, and why this may be and how people think really differently about things like this, and why. So, but moving on to today's topic, if you have already subscribed, you know that I write about the dynamics of couples that you meet in counseling. And one of them that I wrote about, which I don't even think was subscription, was the CEO and resentful employee. So how does somebody become a CEO? How could you tell if you have control issues? Well, you are the one who's doing everything. That's usually the easy way to tell. You somehow, for some reason, end up doing everything. This even it predated usually the relationship. It was when you did group work. It's kind of how it goes at work. It's how you are with your spouse, of course, but it's probably how you were in previous relationships. You end up picking everything, choosing everything. It's your way. You think that everything that isn't the way that you do it is inefficient or stupid, even if you may not say those things. And you have really specific ideas of how things should go. You frequently have a real specific routine, and you always have reasons why things have to go exactly your way, like it just wouldn't work any other way, And so I talked a lot about this in previous podcasts, including the control issues in men. So this manifests in your partner kind of resenting you and disliking interacting with you because everything's got to be your way or the highway. And while you may not say that explicitly, implicitly they know that if they don't do it your way, you're either going to go after them and fix it. So they'll load the dishwasher, but then you'll reload the dishwasher, or else you'll just kind of bitch and moan and sulk at various levels of annoyingness until things go back to being your way. Some people even punish with the silent treatment, when things don't go their way. And how can you work on this was a question that I got. And therapy can obviously help you work on it, but what would you really be doing in therapy? Well, you would be, first of all, seeing who this is like. It's always apparent, unless there are some situations where people were so severely neglected that they had to parent themselves right from the beginning. And so they had to come up with routines and shit from the time they were 6 years old. So then, of course, they're going to be really firmly attached to those routines now, because having routines and figuring out how to organize their lives kind of helped them and rescued them. That aspect of their character grew overly large, but it was adaptive when they were kids. So for people who had parents who were alcoholics or who were depressed, suffering with severe mental illness, what have you, and they had to really take care of themselves, a parentified child has to take care of even a parent, then being really highly organized helped you a lot. So it's hard to now as an adult realize that it's sabotaging your relationships with your spouse and likely your kids. But most people just didn't have that severe neglect, but just saw a really controlling parent. And that parent was always looking down on alternate ways to do things. So the child who looks up to the parent thinks that, there really is only one correct way to do things. Thankfully, this parent knows what it is. And then even if later in life they repudiate the parent's exact specifications or preferences, you don't have to cook exactly like your mother, but you cook a specific way as your mother cooked, only one specific way, like 3 things, or whatever, or needed the kitchen a certain way while she cooked, or only at a certain time, or whatever. So what you would be working on is first seeing how did you feel when this person that, your parent talked to you in a controlling way and tried to control you, you likely felt a lot of resentment. And that is a really good jumping off point to understand and empathize with how likely your kids and your parent, and rather your partner, feels talking to you. You are the controlling parent that you had in this dynamic. And that understanding how they may cower in fear and feel very resentful when you come into the room because you're going to say that they did something wrong and that everything has to go your way and quick, chop, chop, or hurry up, and all of these sorts of things, that may help you see you don't really want to be like this. It can be really helpful when you are trying to work on controlling this to also focus on what you are preventing yourself from getting. So usually you're looking at the positives. Like if I really stick to this routine, then everybody gets up and out in the morning. It's great. If I shop for back to school supplies, a month before, and it has to be a month before and only a month before, and it only has to be from this place, and I have to do it exactly in this way, then everything works well, doesn't it? I mean, my kids always have their school supplies. Well, you can also think about the other way. The thing is, your kids are not learning to be flexible. They're not likely learning to be spontaneous or probably fun, unless it's a real prescribed, scheduled kind of fun. And these things are going to make them not only less likable as people and less functional within intimate relationships, but even less efficient on the job and less effective on the job. Because unless they're all just going to become like accountants or somebody who really, really needs to use an Excel spreadsheet, 24/7 for their career, most higher level jobs involve, and probably higher level accountants as well, certainly actually they do. They have to talk to clients, right? So anybody who has to interface with people as part of their career, and I apologize to all the accountants I might have unwittingly insulted. I just think of them as very organized people because I could never do it myself. But in any sort of career, including accounting, the higher you get, the more you have to interact with people. And if you come off extremely controlling, nobody's going to like you. They're going to go with somebody who seems more flexible and more laid back and more calm. And also, people do not like interacting with controlling people because they feel diminished. They feel patronized. So it's very hard to make people like to hang out with you when they always feel that you're looking down on them. So think about the ways that being controlling is stopping you from getting the things that you want and stopping your kids from learning certain things that may be very important for you to teach them as their parent, such as flexibility, spontaneity, also load sharing, teams, like the fact that you can be on a team with a spouse and they can actually do something, and not just be relegated to this kind of, useless role because you actually, of course, have to do everything because you think that they're so useless. The kids pick up on that and they figure, oh my God, in every relationship, there's somebody who does everything because they're smart and somebody who can't really do anything because they're stupid. And you do not want to teach your kids that, especially, it's bad on both sides. If they only learn that one dynamic that you're showing them of you having to do everything because your spouse is so useless, then either they're going to become the useless spouse themselves or they're going to become the controlling person who is shackled with somebody quote unquote useless, because this is the only dynamic that they know. And you do not want to teach that to your children. You want to teach them a more egalitarian, respectful, loving type of relationship, which means that unfortunately, they can't come up with that out of nowhere. So you are definitely going to have to model more of that if you want them to learn how to do it. Being controlling also, specifically for men, really takes away your wife's sex drive. And it really does. Increasingly, I'm seeing that it does for when women are controlling, it takes away men's sex drive too. So it isn't always just a low desire in men is because of low testosterone. Sometimes it's because they're really, really resentful and they feel like they're always being told what to do. And so one thing that they could keep control of is their dick. So they are that one, they can't, be just told to do at this time and this and this and this. They have to actually be in charge of that. And so passive aggressively, they don't initiate sex because it's literally the only thing they're allowed to initiate. So they're like, fuck you. I'm my own man, even in this one small way. And so that's frequently how men respond to women who are very controlling. And more usually, women respond to controlling males by also growing very distant and unaffectionate because you feel condescended to and you feel looked down on. This doesn't make anybody feel close, and so the controlling nature actually diminishes the relationships. It doesn't make them easier. Things don't go more efficiently. And then, if you just do everything your way and plan everything perfectly, then your spouse has more time to hang out with you at night. Yeah, maybe they do, but they don't want to hang out with you at night because they got kind of criticized implicitly all day. And so they don't really like to hang out with you at night because the mood isn't there, shall we say. What else? Actually, in reality, being controlling can enable your spouse to grow more and more, quote unquote, useless. And I say useless because frequently people will say this of their spouse, not in couples counseling as much, thankfully. But an individual, they'll say, well, if the person wasn't just so useless and incompetent, then I wouldn't have to do everything. In reality, no person, some people, I guess, are more useless than others, but everything's a spectrum. There are no human beings who have no skills, no value by just virtue of being a human being. You have inherent worth and value. So think about why your spouse may be acting so quote unquote useless or incompetent. Likely it's because they weren't allowed to learn anything, so they can't do anything. So if you wonder why your spouse doesn't cook, think back about how it went the times that your spouse tried to cook, or even tried to heat something up, or even tried to slice a fruit. Are you somebody that's always looking askance and almost either outright laughing at them, or kind of eye rolling or sighing, or just silently taking it over and doing it and never, allowing them to do it again because you can, quote, do better? If you are engaging in this, then it's no wonder certainly your spouse's competence has deteriorated over time because they're not allowed to do anything. It's like keeping, and people do this with their kids too. So then they're like, gee, why doesn't my kid know how to even sweep up a mess? Well, man, have you been letting them sweep up a mess? When's the last time you had them sweep up a mess? When they were 3-4 years old, they wanted to help. You said no because they would make a bigger mess. When they're 5-6 years old, you said you let them do it maybe for 3 seconds and you took it over and showed them that they're doing it wrong. 7, 8, 9, they already didn't try. And now you're asking them at 10? How are they going to do it at 10 if they weren't doing it from the time they were young? So the controlling aspect of a parent really keeps a child at a stunted emotional and developmental age where they learn to do nothing really, where they're many years less competent developmentally than they should be because they haven't been allowed to learn, because if they learn, the parent can't handle it. So you need to really, they can't handle, let's say, the mess or the uncertainty of whether, the child will do it the right way, or even just watching the child learn feels like, the parent is cringing because they know they could do it so much better and so much more effectively. Or perhaps because they think that they are the only one who can do it safely, or whatever the case may be. So if you really train your mind on it and you're somebody who struggles with control issues, write down 5 things that have been lost to you, that have been hurt because you are controlling. One might be, I have lost the ability to split chores with my spouse because my spouse hasn't tried to do chores in years, because I always say they did it wrong, quite honestly, and that's probably why. Or I have lost the ability to make my wife laugh because when I walk into the room, she looks up at me with eyes that she's kind of scared of me. It's the craziest thing. I wouldn't do anything bad to my wife, but when I think about it, I guess it's because I'm critical, because I'm controlling, because I'm cold, because she can't trust me to be nice. How about my kids? Do my kids get off their ass? No, they don't. Why? Because all these years I've been saying, no, forget it, I'll do it. I'll do it. Forget it. I'll do it. You're doing it wrong. I'll do it. Well, then guess what they do? They say, fine, you do it, and they sit down. How about on the job? Do you have perfect reviews on the job? Probably not, although people function a hell of a lot better on the job than they do in interpersonal relationships with intimate partners and children. So you may well know how to couch your controllingness at work, but then, still comes out at home. And think about other things, all the time, honestly, that is lost. I mean, you could have probably trained for a marathon if you would have just been not giving so much of a shit about certain things going expertly and efficiently in the home. So you can write some things out. If 5 is too many, just get to 2 or 3. If you really focus on those negative aspects of it, particularly the fact that your spouse and your kids are likely very resentful / anxious around you, then this can often make people want to and understand they need to step back. And how do you step back? Well, you just fucking step back. You got to try to practice walking out of the room and allowing your spouse or children to do things that you just never, ever criticize. You don't criticize it when it's happening. You just do a moratorium on criticism, and you don't criticize it after the fact. You don't say, good job, but next time if I were you, I would have done blah, blah, blah. You don't say, okay, yeah, that's a way to sweep up, but in reality, what you do is this. You don't take it over. You don't do it over. The next time that you feel like you want to take over, so these are the things. You want to either take over the task, you want to criticize the task, or you want to hoard the task and not allow anybody to do it but you. So if somebody's doing something and you take it over, or you criticize, or you don't let them do it to begin with because you've already done it. So the next time that you do these things, just give yourself a moratorium on it. Try to do that for a week. If you are truly a very controlling person and you get rid of explicit and implicit criticism for 1 week, you'll have a completely different feel in your home. The atmosphere will lighten considerably. Your spouse may even ask if you're taking an antidepressant, because, and actually, ironically, when people do take antidepressants, this is something that their spouses notice, is that they stop hovering and correcting and instructing. So there's no instructing, no correcting, no hovering. And what are you thinking of? You're thinking of all that you're going to gain, and the trust and the confidence that you're going to engender in your spouse and children by allowing them to pick things, choose things, and do things. So this goes for preferences too. So a lot of people who are controlling, they pick everything. They say, all right, we're going to lunch here, we're going here, we're doing this, we're doing that. And they don't even really ask anybody, or they ask, but only in a way that the people know what to say. So they say to their wife, so do you want to have Chinese or Italian? And the woman looks at him and he looks at her, and then she's like, well, I don't know, what do you want? He's like, Italian. So that guy got to tell himself that he's being not controlling, but in reality they both know she's really not allowed to pick things, because if she picks things, then he becomes an asshole and sulks, etc. And if you think this sounds like why would that woman go along with that? Must be something wrong with her. You're right. Takes 2 to tango. She probably grew up with a really controlling parent, and she became the controlled rather than the controller. It's really anybody's guess. When you see a dynamic like this and you're a child, you're seeing your parents, it's really anybody's guess which one you're going to be. It interacts with your personality and basically who you are. So a less confident child raised by a controlling parent may turn into a controlled spouse that looks subconsciously for a controlling partner. Whereas if you're maybe a stronger, sort of more confident personality raised as a child in the house with a controlling parent, you will model yourself after the controlling one, and you will find in a partner somebody who defers to you. This again is imago theory, where we are looking subconsciously for something in our parent and then trying to change them in ways we never could. So the wife of the guy who won't really let her pick Chinese or Italian is hoping against hope that one day, he does turn to her and say, sweetheart, I've picked the restaurant for 30 years. It's your turn. He doesn't. Spoiler alert, he doesn't do that unless he's been in extreme therapy, or she threatens to leave him or something. And the guy who is controlling, who does he want? He wants somebody who defers with sweetness and with love, and who says, wow, man, everything you pick is so smart. It's so good. Because as a kid, he was never allowed to pick anything and probably also saw a spouse, if his mother was controlling, maybe it was his father, that was beaten down and resentful. So what his fantasy is that his wife is going to turn to him after 30 years and say, Stan, it's been 30 years of excellent restaurant recommendations. Thank Thank God I never made a choice for myself. I'm really so happy that I married you. And of course, this is as likely to happen as the inverse of Stan just turning to her and saying, Helen, these are my old people names, Helen, why don't you just pick? I've made some mistakes over the years, Chinese when it should have been Italian and vice versa. It's your turn now. From now until the grave, you'll pick the restaurants. Of course, he's never going to say that again unless Helen threatens to leave for, I can't think of another old man name. Oliver? No, I feel like that's like a young person name now. All right. Anyway, so you see my point. So what are you doing if you're controlling? You're trying to keep in mind, focus on not the positives of your controlling nature, but the negatives. All the things that you've lost. If you feel upset by it, that's a wonderful motivator. And then you're going to try to put an immediate moratorium for a week on criticism, instruction, hoarding of tasks, and taking over and redoing tasks. Just to see, once you get into that kind of headspace and you see you could do it for even one day, 2 days will be easier than the first day. The third day will be even easier than that. If you can't do it at all, it's a good time to try therapy and to work with somebody individually on why is it so hard for you to cede control, what are your terrors about doing so, and how can you, have accountability and support through the process of perhaps loosening the reins on your family so that they can more really enjoy who you are as a person instead of being scared by you, which is usually how controlling people are. They scare people around them. They don't know why. They don't intend to, but everybody ends up feeling scared. Why? Because they could always do something wrong, because there's so many possible missteps. And nobody wants to be that person that terrorizes their family unintentionally. So it's a good time to work on control issues and to understand where they come from. Remember, that's the very first step, because that can help you with self-compassion as you start the difficult journey of trying to loosen some of your reins. All right, great. And hope you got a lot out of that. Please do subscribe, and I'll talk to everybody soon.